Our weekly look at the news stories that have captured your attention. We take a look at New Zealand, take a look around the world, see what Google has to say, and of course, our other major news services too. So with all that in mind, for 2025 as well. And so do be sure to let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods. Jump in the chat as soon as our stream is up. We had a few challenges to overcome today, haven't we, Josh?
Yes, we have. I definitely have not just walked into the studio.
No, not at all. No.
I'm definitely not just now setting up my laptop because my wife took the wrong car to go to a physio appointment this morning, and she definitely doesn't pass on her apologies to you specifically, Andrew, and of course to the nation.
Well, I'm glad none of that has happened.
None of
this
that
morning.
has happened.
Thank goodness. Imagine if it had. What a schmozzle. How embarrassing that would be. Yeah, we do have a couple of challenges with our live stream as well, in case you're wondering what's going on. But, you know, things are outside of your control today, isn't it? Because we can tell you what's going on in New Zealand and around the world. So why don't we take a look at then our first story that has captured the world's attention, first heading to the USA.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
A little reminder too, by the way, even though our live stream might be lagging behind, you can still get in touch the old-fashioned way. Text through this morning.
8168 with the keyword Rema. We would love to hear from you. What do you think will be trending on the show today? And of course, if you've got any thoughts on the stories, feel free to share those thoughts as well.
How are you feeling over there, by the way? You kind of like just catching up on yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm normally much more set up at this point. I've got to open different windows, the streaming window, the prep sheet. So
I just thought we could try and pretend that everything's going great, but that's kind of how things actually end up sounding worse. You know, you're like frantically like, everything's fine, everything's fine.
You just got to own, you know, that this is a live show.
That's right.
It has a live element, and that sometimes means things like your headphones are left at your desk, I've just realized, and I might want to go retrieve those.
Well, I'll probably have a story or two I can play at some point to covertly disguise the fact that you are headphoneless this morning.
Okay, you give me the signal, and I'll race out when I can.
It'll be like this. Josh, go get your headphones. Okay, that'll be the clue. First story today we're going to be talking about. This is remarkable and so uniquely US. That's right. We are looking at a story from CNN today. This is the #1 trending news story. I don't feel like this has captured a lot of attention in New Zealand, but it's a pretty remarkable story. The way that they've been addressing Venezuelan drug traffickers.
Yeah, and this one's tricky, eh?
Yeah, so they've had these issues with drug boats. The drug boat, soon they'll be making another run. No, that's not the original at all, is it? That's
Look,
a bit
if
different.
you know, you know.
These are boats that have been running drugs through the Caribbean, the Eastern Pacific as well. And so the U.S. military has taken it upon themselves, under the direction of their Secretary of Defense, to basically blow these boats up. So on the one hand, those who are wary of the damage that's being done to the U.S. through these drug imports are saying they're going to extraordinary measures to protect the people from extraordinary risks. Of course, critics have pointed out that you basically are setting yourself up as judge, jury, and executioner here. You're just observing the boats and blowing them clean out of the water.
I mean, is there any assurity that they are what they claim they are in terms of drug boats?
Yeah, you'd be kind of a little red-faced if it was just people out for a joyride and then they got taken up by an Apache helicopter. As of right now, I think the boats that have been taken down have all been confirmed drug runner adjacent. So that's okay thus far. It's part of a wider strategy, though, the Trump administration has undertaken by labeling these drug cartels as terrorist organizations. Because if they're terrorists, well, then we don't have to worry about trying them before we decide to.
Using excessive force is granted.
Yeah. So this story, anyway, that was #1, talks about how they are treating survivors. And this is where the plot doth thicken somewhat. The US separate 3 US strikes on alleged drug boats have initially left survivors. Each time they have been treated differently. So basically telling us that sometimes some of the survivors have been detained by the US Navy only to be returned to their home countries. 1 was left afloat in the ocean and is presumed dead. 2 more have been the subject of intense scrutiny because the US military conducted a second strike killing them as they clung to their flipped and damaged boat on the 2nd of September.
Goodness me.
Pretty dramatic.
Really dramatic. I mean, not to condone the actions of these people and what they're doing, but doesn't sound like it fits the line of justice that we understand, particularly biblically.
So I really don't know how I feel about some of this stuff, because it has been pointed out, and I think rightly too, that a lot of these people thrive on the indulgence of nations such as ours who will not behave in certain ways because of our traditions and convictions, right? Whereas these guys, of course, don't hold themselves to those sorts of things at all. They will do all manner of horrific stuff to not only their own cartels, but then people who might cross them in some way, and then say, whoa, but you can't treat us this way because this is who you are and these are what your values and beliefs are. Do we make exceptions to the rule, Josh?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No, I think we stray too far into very murky territory, as you say, putting ourselves as judge, jury, and executioner, when we then define this is enough for us to not give forgiveness and not to seek justice in the right way. It's not easy by any means, and of course that doesn't mean that then suddenly that's a golden ticket. That means all manner of things can happen. You're right, but it's not a conversation or something that we're going to settle by any means in one episode of Trending. But
What?
if you've got thoughts, by the way,
Hang on a minute. I
8168
thought
with
we'd
the
have this-
keyword Rima, all nicely wrapped up with a bow.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, though. No, do text through your thoughts on this. Here's a little more info, though, courtesy of CNN, about what might have been going on with these drug boat strikes in the US. Josh, go get your headphones. Sorry, that was the clue. So that is the story. That is what they are debating in the US. And the debate continues too as to, well, what extent you can respond to this sort of thing. Again, these drug cartels bring all manner of pain and suffering to the people of the US. But does that mean you can just, I don't know, depart from your otherwise tightly held values and morals, the principles of justice?
Yeah, the belief system that there is this echelon or this kind of hierarchy of sin that, and I can very much understand the motivation to protect,
Sure.
to care for,
Sure.
but there is no way that we can rank what is the worst atrocities and then go, therefore that allows fighting fire with fire, as it were.
Okay, so to play devil's advocate on this, we do that to some measure, though, with our sentencing system right now, that, if you jaywalk versus kill someone,
Yes, that's
you
true.
will experience much more severe punishments. I suppose in both cases, though, that would be assumed to have happened after a criminal trial.
Yes, a proving of guilt. I guess we don't know the intelligence behind the decisions that are made to first and foremost say these are drug cartel boats, because from the outside looking in, the perspective is there is a belief system, or there is a belief that that is the case.
Yeah.
Rather a belief system. But there is intelligence, or there is something to suggest that that is the case. Therefore, we're going to take this action preemptively rather than reactively.
Well, we will see what goes on with this in future. Thanks, Owen. Owen from our technical team coming this morning. If you've just joined us on the live stream, we're back up and running 100% today too. So thanks for bearing with us.
What a legend Owen is.
Isn't Owen great? This is our I wasn't even going to say annual, monthly celebration of all things Owen. If you had to call anybody in this building, like something's gone down, you need somebody to rely on who's going to respond, who's going to get the job sorted out. Look, for me, it's got to be Owen.
I typically call Skip, but you know what? Skip then goes, I'll get Owen on.
Yeah, exactly. You're basically calling Owen. So I hope that you guys have an Owen in your life. Let's continue to take a look at some other stories that have been popular in New Zealand and around the world.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And we're going to New Zealand for this one. Little old New Zealand. This story very popular on stuff.co.nz. The fall of an empire.
We're talking liquor.
A liquor empire. Interesting. I mean, one would imagine that's a very unstable empire anyway.
Not something we typically would talk about on Rima as well, but of course this is trending. So these are the top trending stories over the week that was. Number one trending on a very popular news site here in New Zealand, stuff.co.nz. Liquor empire collapses, store sale before business failure under scrutiny.
Dun, dun, dun. So Hardeep Singh, he's the owner of Big Daddy Liquor, or at least he was. But he hosted lavish parties from his $4 million mansion, the article says, and drove expensive cars while his liquor conglomerate was staring down the barrel. Now, a liquidator is investing Hardeep Singh's selling of stores and equipment weeks before his company went bust. How do you go bust selling alcohol in New Zealand?
I don't know.
Like, that feels like quite an achievement, really.
I do believe, though, liquor sales are down at the moment.
Actually, I have heard that. That could well be true. As you know too, Josh, I moved out west just recently, and one of the unique things about living out west is that these supermarkets don't have wine and beer in them.
Yes,
And I quite like it. I quite like it. I'm a fan. So, all to say, this gentleman, the boss of Big Daddy's empire, and his wife were once behind nearly a dozen booze shops, pubs, and even an Indian grocer in Christchurch. The chain has repeatedly come under fire for alleged underpayment of staff.
Yeah, I think the other element here that is causing rather a lot of outrage and then therefore a lot of clicks on the story is his behavior, living a very lavish lifestyle, while in contrast to the way that he has been treating employees and not exactly doing as well as he may have claimed.
Now, in parallel to that too, by the way, we had a couple of stories throughout the course of this year about immigrant workers and how badly they've been treated. It doesn't feel like we have had any more updates on that situation in the last little while, but you wouldn't want to mistake that for problems clearly being solved and let's move on. I wonder if there's more of this stuff happening that we're just not talking about, because surely this guy is another example of taking advantage of workers that we're just not hearing about.
Well, this is an interesting conversation, Andrew, because of course we're having this conversation amongst an episode of Trending.
Sure.
And so Trending, of course, is built off these are the stories that you have gone searching for more information about.
Yeah.
And as you've said, these type of stories, either they have not been searched for or they are not garnering enough attention. We haven't seen them enough to say, hey, they're trending to fit the format of the show. Is that due to the fact that they are not happening, or we are not having our attention drawn to them?
Yeah. So that's the story, though, that was number one on stuff.co.nz, the end of a liquor empire. Now a question for you about public transport.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And before we get into this, I want to ask you that question, which you can respond to via text or in our chat. Are you concerned about your safety on public transport?
If you catch public transport, or maybe you don't because you are concerned for safety reasons, get in touch, 8168 with the keyword Rima. We're about to get into a very trending story over the week that was number 15, which is all about public transport and the safety in terms of when you travel, how safe you feel. So if you've got a thought on this, 8168 keyword Rima, or leave a comment below. The stream is now live. You can find it at rima.co.nz, clicking on either the Facebook or YouTube links.
Sadly, the name that is trending number 15 in Google this week has been Adrian Pane. Now, Adrian Pane related to a story of a stabbing, a serious stabbing on a bus. Now, fears have surfaced on violence over public transport in the wake of a horrific fatal bus stabbing. This comes courtesy of One News. Even as transit operators insist that the services are safe, with Auckland officials pointing to millions of incident-free journeys. A 59-year-old man died and a 51-year-old man was seriously injured after being stabbed in what police described as an unprovoked and random attack on the Route 76 bus travelling from Glen Innes to Oraki on Monday night.
This was a while ago, but witnessed one of these events. I cannot remember which one, not firsthand. I did not see the moment it occurred, but I was on my way home, not catching public transport, but I had pulled into the bakery to get something on my way home, bus stop just there, and seated, being attended to, medical professionals already on their way, thank goodness, but was a bus driver who had been stabbed on the job, and it was incredibly sickening and disturbing to see. Bit of a, I guess, trigger warning, but covered in blood. Not something you expect to just turn a corner and be experiencing.
And so, again, we're going to ask you that question right now. Are you concerned for your safety on public transport? Maybe you've even stopped taking public transport because of some of these stories. Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, 8168 with the keyword REMA, or leave a comment below on the live stream. It is rema.co.nz, clicking on either the Facebook or YouTube links.
This is how they decided to cover the story on One News, and asking that question, how safe is public transport really?
The man accused of murdering an Auckland bus passenger and injuring another appeared in court today and will undergo a mental health assessment. In the wake of the incident, the city's deputy mayor says central government has to move urgently to boost support for mental health services. Simon Mersett reports.
In Glen Innes today came more tributes to Sefo Ledger, the 59-year-old man who died on a footpath after being stabbed while getting off a bus. Across town, a 36-year-old man accused of his murder appeared in the Auckland District Court. He's also charged over the attack on another bus passenger on the same journey. His identity is protected for now. The man stood calmly as the judge ordered mental health assessments before his next appearance in January. Auckland Transport says overall the bus network is safe and attacks are rare. Last year, a woman was fatally stabbed aboard a bus in Onehunga. In 2023, a man died from a stab wound after an altercation at Albany bus station. One commuter told us today his sister avoids the Albany station.
Too risky. Definitely that area. He says the only way that they can keep that place safe is to have guards there 24/7.
Auckland Transport has just upgraded its safety measures with more cameras on buses and emergency call points at transport hubs.
You can press this button and it will connect you directly to the Auckland Transport Operations Center.
The Deputy Mayor says central government also needs to step up with more resources for the mental health sector.
We have to act now. It is about doing something tangible, joined up, and giving our people confidence that the central government agencies are doing all they can to deal with this problem.
The Deputy Mayor says tonight she's writing to the Ministers of Mental Health, Justice and Police, calling on them to make more resources available for mental health services. And if they don't, concern over public safety may only increase. She suggests the funding of mental health could be an issue politicians pay attention to in election year. Simon Mersett, One News.
So a horrific story, but some interesting issues being raised in this one too. One being, at the risk of getting myself in trouble this early into the show, how quickly we put these stories into the mental health box. I say this because there are plenty of people out there who are struggling with their mental health who are not stabbing people on buses.
This is fair. This is very fair. However, I wonder, Andrew, are we finally seeing, or maybe not finally seeing, but has the mental health crisis in New Zealand finally affected a sector that impacts a lot of people?
Right.
Public transport.
Right.
Commuting together with a bunch of strangers. A lot of people confined into small areas.
Yeah.
Are we finally seeing the impact of that crisis now permeate our society. And then that is what it's taking finally for people to be like, well, we better do something about this.
Take it seriously. Interesting. Look, there's plenty of rooms to hear your thoughts on this as well. So we've actually had a text that's just come through as well on 8168 with the first word Rema. So we do want to know your thoughts on public transport. But no, a couple of messages coming through so far.
I was on a train this year and witnessed a lady on the platform chasing a passenger. She was waving a machete. She had a friend who was trying to stop her. I was the only person to dial 111. Everyone I saw was looking away. I am 70. Yes, I feel vulnerable, but it is my only way to get to town.
Then another one that's come through as well today. My husband was assaulted on the bus in Albany. Nobody even looked up.
Wow. There are a number of people, by the way, watching on both the streams at the moment. If you've got a comment or a thought on public transport and the safety that you may or may not feel as you travel, feel free to leave a comment below. But obviously, the majority of messages we're getting thus far, only two, but I mean, both being messages of concern and worry for people's safety.
It's hard to know how to respond to some of these as well when they relate them against the number of incident-free services that occur, right? Like, hey, look, there's millions of things that, these things go along all the time. People get on the buses off and there's no issue whatsoever. How many assaults is too many? Like, you're saying if it's 1 in a million, are you okay with that? Because, of course, it's all well and good until you're the one, right? But this is a legitimate point. You can spend a lot of time trying to get 1 to 0. And by doing that, you're also diverting resources away from other things that could also make an impact. So I'm not saying you can't do anything here too. I wonder how many of these stories beget more of these stories, because let's acknowledge this is a strange thing to do, right? Obviously, taking a knife to somebody on a bus is a strange thing to do, but this is something that then gets coverage, gets notoriety, and then for some reason inspires other people to follow on those same footsteps, maybe do the same thing. You're in a catch-22. You can't not talk about it. But if you do talk about it, is this something then that also sows a seed in the mind of the kind of individuals who would then do something like this?
Are we also just hyper aware of these incidents because they are now so covered in detail? And I don't know this for a fact, but I wonder, what do the stats show in terms of how this has happened over the many years of public transport in New Zealand? Did they happen and we were just unaware of it? And now that it's being brought to our attention, because of course media is everywhere in that regards.
Sure.
If it didn't happen in your city, your town back in the day, it was not of your concern.
Look, I'll compare this to one other completely unrelated area, and then we'll decide with your help today too, thanks to your messages, as to whether or not this does map very well. But it reminds me of the stories around quad bikes and kids a few years ago. Do you remember this?
Vaguely speaking.
It sticks in my mind because it was one of those situations where suddenly we were getting all these news stories about kids on quad bikes on farms and people falling off quad bikes. And for a period of about 6 months, we were just absolutely inundated with the risk of quad bikes, the dangers of quad bikes. What are we going to do about quad bikes? And it turned out there was about 16 quad bike injuries per year. But they were everywhere in the news, and so suddenly this was a massive thing. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do about this thing? It was, as you've identified, something that had a intense focus placed on it by the media, but then made people overreact in regards to the significance thereof.
Well, it also then goes back to what you said in terms of how many accidents is too many, or what's the number?
Yeah.
In this instance, say the 16, that was the magic number for whatever reason to then go, something has to be done.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's the right or wrong call.
Well, let me make a really uncomfortable observation here. You know, if the speed limit was 30 k's an hour, we'd have a 0 road toll.
Oosh.
But nobody wants a 30 k an hour speed limit. Nobody wants to reduce the motorways down to 50 k's an hour. So whether you like it or not, this will make you choke on your morning tea. We are comfortable with a certain number of fatalities if it means we can go 100 k's an hour. You could go slower than that. You could, but you don't.
Don't, because now you're just making more danger in
well,
another way, by the way.
Slow lane, right? Like you go in the slower lane. You could whatever.
Don't go 50 on the motorway, though.
Don't do 50 on the motorway. I'm just saying, in principle, there are these trade-offs that we look to make. It makes you feel terribly uncomfortable, But what can happen with some of these things, because they're very emotive, we can then overcompensate, which also means we're drawing resources away from other places. I say all this to say, I do believe, though, these incidences are increasing. This is not something we grew up with in Aotearoa. So what do you do? What do you do? Have you changed how likely you are to journey on public transport? Let us know your thoughts today.
8168 with the keyword REMA, as many other people have. Text on through. Or, of course, if you're watching on the stream, good to see some high numbers today on both YouTube and Facebook. Leave a comment below.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And now let's go to one of my favorite places to visit, The Guardian. The Guardian, because if I want to know what's going on in the USA, I head to the British websites. This story was the second most popular on The Guardian in the last week. So, of course, theguardian.co.uk. And talking about tourists to the US having to reveal 5 years of social media activity under a new Donald Trump plan.
Yes, I've already heard rumour of people arriving in the US and having to hand over their phone, it being plugged in, searched, whether or not, I haven't seen any news reports saying that. I don't know that there are or are not, but scary.
Scary stuff. So the story itself, which we're going to take a look at now on the live stream. So again, you're welcome to join us and read along if you would like. Tourists to the US would have to reveal their social media activity from the last 5 years under a new Trump administration plan. The mandatory new disclosures would apply to the 42 countries whose nationals are currently permitted to enter the US without a visa, including longtime US allies Britain, France, Australia, Germany, and Japan. That would also include New Zealand. In a notice published on Tuesday, the US Customs and Border Protection Agency said it would also require any telephone numbers used by visitors over the same period and any email addresses used in the last decade, as well as face, fingerprint, DNA, and iris biometrics. It would also ask for the names, addresses, birth dates, birthplaces of family members, including children. What on earth? That is intense, man. That is like...
That's too far.
That feels like it's a bit too far. Also, too, trying to figure out exactly what it is that these people might have had to have said or done that would then cause them to fall foul of this heightened level of screening.
Because, of course, there's two conversations here. On the one hand, what the Trump administration and allies will say is this is a safety precaution, a great way of making sure that those who are coming through do not have terrorist ties, et cetera, et cetera. The other side, however, will say that if there is any dogma or rhetoric probably is the right word here in terms of anti-Trump sentiment and anything that is not in favor of his administration, then that would be used as a reason to say, hey, nope, you're not coming in.
And that to me is the biggest concern, isn't it? Because if you are unable to voice your displeasure at the US president, are you even in America anymore? Like, is this not a country that even defended your right to burn a flag because it was freedom of speech, freedom of expression? Very offensive to some people to do this, but it's in their constitution. And even relating to what we talked about a little bit earlier when it comes to, your right to a fair trial, these were things that have been put into the constitution that in some ways cut across our baser instincts. Yet they're there as, in some ways, a tribute to the US and what they built their country on. Now, though, saying, well, we're actually going to search through your social medias.
I mean, it's interesting you bring that up, Andrew, because, of course, it's almost, in some ways, Christian, isn't it? In the sense 100%. To say, do not act on those baser instincts as we are fallen individuals, that we have this proclivity to sin, even though we also have this proclivity to justice and this is right and this is wrong. But, of course, then we know none of us are actually able to sit wholly in that camp and go, we are right. It is only by grace we are saved. And it is biblical that God calls us to say, I'm not going to just defer to my feelings and my strong convictions in that moment of anger or retribution, but I'm going to look at the law and look at, biblically speaking, what I've been told to do, and instead make a conscious decision to do that instead. there is, of course, the argument that America is a Christian nation.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of cans of worms to open if we want to go into that.
What makes a nation Christian?
But, I mean, if they want to claim that, if they want to sort of continue to have that banner held over their nation, this is certainly not a step that
Josh
continues to connect to that.
Josh, they've got to do it to keep out all the bad people.
Oh,
How can they maintain their position as a Christian nation unless they keep out all the insidious forces? See, it's very easy. I can do this all day. You know, argue both sides and entertain myself. Let's see how the ABC in Australia covered it, because, of course, Australia, another one of those countries that would have to reveal 5 years of social media activity under the new Donald Trump plan.
There's big news out of the United States this morning, where a border battle is brewing for several countries, including Australia. Travellers could soon be forced to disclose 5 years' worth of their social media history to enter the US. Molly Slattery is across it all for us this morning. Molly, what more do we know about the proposal?
I love, by the way, if you're on the live stream, how they thought, how can we add some level of authority to this? So instead of speaking to their journalist live in the studio, they're going to put her in an airport. Does that change anything about what she's about to say? I could not have told you this unless I was standing in front of the departure gate.
Does it make us have more confidence in the news media when they do things like this? We feel, I don't know, that they're doing their job.
Unless you descend into my level of cynicism, and then it doesn't help.
Good morning, Em. As you mentioned, this new proposal would see Australian travellers heading to the United States required to hand over 5 years' worth of their social media activity. Now, the precedent for countries that currently don't have visa arrangements, or visa exemptions rather, is that travellers have to provide the usernames and handles of any social media accounts that they have had for the 5 years prior to that application. Now, here in Australia and in many of the other countries proposed to be part of these changes, we have a visa exemption. If you want to travel to the United States as an Aussie, you can go for 90 days without a visa. You just have to fill out an ESTA, which is a relatively straightforward online application. You don't require a huge amount of detail, but these changes would see social media as well as 10 years worth of email addresses and additional family details, including the details of children, may be required as part of those changes to the ESTA agreement. Now, we heard earlier this morning from immigration lawyer Melissa Vicente in terms of why these changes may be being brought in.
Well, I think what's being targeted is, according to the administration, that we have to find those people who have anti-American thoughts that might do harm to the American people. And so it's more of a digging expedition to find out who they are.
Now, these proposed changes would apply to 42 countries, including Australia, New Zealand, France, the UK and Japan. So quite a sweeping change if it does go ahead. Now, of course, there's still some time before these changes would come into place, but certainly food for thought for Australian travellers before they make plans to head overseas to the States.
Wow.
I want to know from you listening right now or watching on the live stream, by the way, rima.co.nz, either the Facebook or YouTube link. You can be a part of the viewing pleasure of Trending.
Be able to look at that glorious shirt you're wearing?
Yeah.
Is that a new effort? Have I seen that one before?
You may have not seen it on the stream before, but I think you might have seen it before. Anyway,
the point is
about my shirt. Would I be barred at the border for such a flamboyant shirt? Who knows? I want to know, say you have the ability, forget the money side of things, say you have the ability to travel to America.
Yep.
Would you? I know many people who, even before this, have decided, due to all of the stories, all of that we are hearing from the States, that it is unsafe to travel to. I know my mum is very concerned that I have for a long time wanted to travel to the States.
Yeah.
Has this new development, if this comes into force and it is an element that you would have to adhere to if you wanted to travel to the United States of America, do you have any desire, or has this changed any desire to travel to the States?
Yeah, it's a bit draconian. I say it's a bit draconian. It's a lot draconian. And even the process of supplying 5 years worth of this kind of stuff, it just boggles my mind. I will say it does connect somewhat to our earlier discussions again about the risks at the bus stations, because as much as the ructions within American society often make the headlines, I've also heard many reports saying that, well, to be honest, if you're just in everyday America, people just get on with their lives. This is the struggle that we experience when we're chronically online. If you're paying too much attention to social media, very similar really to New Zealand. if you think about it, you can watch a lot of news headlines and follow a lot of social media, but day to day, going to pack and save, picking up your kids from school, are you really running into a lot of incredibly divisive social activity?
Yeah, that's a good observation, because certainly the motivation for a lot of people, again, I'll just speak specifically of my mum.
Yep.
Her mindset is, if I travel to the States, there is a significant increase in the risk to my life because those types of events, in her mind, and potentially because it's been seen in the media so much more often. And I think there is a reality that there is an uptick in these events.
Right. But how big is that uptick? Like, is it really like, are we saying?
Well, how likely is it that actually, because I go over there, suddenly I am going to encounter a act of violence or some sort of moment that is going to cause risk to my own safety?
Well, you got to know how to slice up stats as well, because depending on how things are reported, for example, if there's something has a 0.2% chance of happening, and then it goes to a 0.3% chance of happening, you'd be like, oh my gosh, there's been a 50% rise in the number of blah, 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 blah. And you multiply that out across, 350 million people. You can still get a relatively high number of incidents of anything going on. But are you particularly at risk? Are there certain parts of the US? I mean, this speaks to the wider way in which the media reports on these kind of stories. But I mean, this one in particular, quite a strange one. And yes, if it is affecting your willingness to travel to the US, let us know your thoughts today.
8168 with the keyword REMA. That is how you text on through if you're listening the traditional way to the show. If you're watching, though, leave a comment below. Click on either the Facebook or YouTube links at rema.co.nz.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Remix. Anyway.
Live. We are live.
All planned, yeah, in case you were wondering. Tell you what nobody wanted to search for this week, though, and we thought we'd draw some attention to it because it kind of surprised us. Missing in action from your search terms, both on Google and on your major news services. The Australian social media ban for under 16s.
Yeah, this is interesting, right? Because this is trending. The format of the show is to look at the trending stories from over the week. These are the stories that people have been clicking on, particularly here in New Zealand, but also going overseas as well. These are the stories that the community, that the people you live with are clicking on. But this one, not at all, which we thought was rather a surprise. So every so often we do bring this, a missing in action, because this is just next door, as it were, country-wise, and there's been a social media ban.
Yeah, and yet we don't seem to care for some reason. Or maybe we do. Maybe we care deeply, but for some reason you didn't go searching for it or looking up articles. Let us know how you feel about the social media ban, but first let's see how it was covered on stuff.co.nz.
Australia's world first ban on social media for under 16s kicked in today, a move the world is watching. All political parties here agree children need protection online, but can't agree on how to deliver it. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy has the story.
I'll send you a snap. Let's make a TikTok. I'll DM you on Insta. All things you now won't hear from under 16-year-olds in Australia with their ambitious experiment to boot young teens off social media.
Shake of the head there, Josh.
I mean, A, no teens actually talk like that.
Hello, fellow kids.
B, I think regardless of what the sentiment is, they're still going to be doing it.
Anyway, let's see what else I had to say.
For the good of Kirsty. For the good of Lucy and Anya.
Do it for Lucy.
Aussie teens are now banned from the list of YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Reddit, Twitch, Threads and Kik.
From December 10, if you're under 16, you're no longer allowed to have a social media account.
Tech companies could face fines of up to $50 million if they don't take the proper steps to stop under 16s on those platforms. The tech giants say they will comply, but call it arbitrary. The Australian government says it's aimed to protect teens from online abuse, harmful content and excessive screen time. The Prime Minister attempting some advice.
Above all, make the most of the school holidays coming up rather than spending it scrolling on your phone. Start a new sport, learn a new instrument, or read that book that has been sitting there on your shelf for some time.
But
it's just me. Does he sound like he's had a few too many?
Also, the idea that a teenager, because the Prime Minister said so, is going to do, yes, Prime Minister, I will take up a new sport.
Now, Jimmy, you heard what Anthony said. Yes, Mum.
The experimental law isn't foolproof.
I do know anecdotally that also they are migrating to other platforms that aren't as yet covered under the ban. I've heard of the platform Yope, which has sort of got similar facilities to Snapchat, and also that potentially some of the age verification software may not be working.
And when kids jump to these less regulated social media platforms, that's when they're shown more things, or they're more vulnerable to online bullying or predators.
No.
Can we not have kids in cars as official representatives of young people, please? Can we just not?
But that shows how real it is. It's a real teenager making a real comment.
Kids go on things, then maybe the bad stuff will happen, and then they don't. That's where the bad things are. So don't. Okay, that's obviously a little dismissive, but nevertheless, the law of unintended consequences, man. That is the thing that I'm waiting to see fulfilled in this one. My question is how long we should be watching this Australian experiment before we try to roll something out here.
Well, this, as they said, all eyes are on Australia. This is a groundbreaking first moment that every other nation is going to be looking at and going, how did it go? Shall we change what we do? Do we do anything similar? Do we throw out what they've done and try it from scratch? Who knows what is going to happen?
We've had a great text come through this morning as well.
Policing and implementation of this under-16s policy is going to be an absolute nightmare. However, the sentiment behind the idea is good. I just don't think it will come off in the long term. This will be like alcohol prohibition in the US in the early 20th century. That came through from Justin.
Can I really stir the pot?
Go for it.
I'm in stir the pot mode today, you can probably tell.
I mean, it's your show, mate.
Here's the thing about prohibition that is uncomfortable to acknowledge. It did reduce alcohol consumption. So it achieved the goal to which it was set out to do. It reduced alcohol consumption. They thought alcohol consumption is too high, let's do this thing. It created a whole bunch of other problems. And of course, we're very familiar with the Al Capone era, organized crime getting involved because of people still wanting to access alcohol. But it did achieve its goal.
I don't know enough about prohibition, but as you say, it achieved its goal, but did it make things worse?
Well, that's the $6 million question, isn't it?
Right, I see. Because also, I mean, that is the sentiment that's being expressed, by that teenager, as you commented. If you saw on the stream, by the way, if you want to watch the stream in a car, rema.co.nz.
With your kid.
You can. But his sentiment was they're moving from these more well-known platforms like Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Although who's on Facebook these days? Anyway.
People watching our stream, obviously.
That's right. Good to have you. But I mean, onto these lesser known, but lesser regulated sites that are providing what is desired. Is there, as is being asserted, this greater increase in risk due to the fact that there is, they are less seen, these sites. They're not as known.
Yeah, well, and a response back too on this idea of comparing to prohibition. The unintended consequences of prohibition were bad enough that even though it achieved its primary objective, the whole thing was rolled back. So this is the thing. One of my favorite quotes of all time from an economist by the name of Thomas Sowell said that there are no solutions, only trade-offs. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. It's very difficult to find something in life we said, oh, kids are accessing social media too early. We will just stop them doing that. And problem is solved.
It's not a 1 + 1 = 2.
So you are going to redirect them out of the places. Then you have to start answering the awkward question, which we talked about a little bit with things like traffic laws. How much harm are you willing to accept for young people? Because you are. Because you are. This is the same thing. That's why I use the example of speed limits on the motorways. If you made the speed limit 30 k's an hour everywhere you go, no crashes on the road at all. So we are comfortable, whether or not you like to admit it or otherwise, you are comfortable with a certain number of people dying on the roads every year.
It's interesting, Andrew. There is, and I've noticed the time, by the way, we're going to have to quickly cram in quite a few stories, but this happens quite often on Trending. We find a theme. Today's theme is about that trade-off.
Yeah.
With the road toll, with social media, with entering the US. it's all this conversation of risk and reward, the best thing to do. It's not a, as I said, 1 + 1 = 2 conversation, because again, this also pertains to the conversation we're having earlier, which we did get a text through from Jan saying, I've been to the States, but I'm concerned about going again. Why is Jan? Jan, if you are still watching or listening, let us know why you are concerned, because again, it is about this belief of increase in risk, so the trade-off is not worth it.
That's right. So you've got the American approach where they've become a lot more draconian in order to protect the safety of their own people. You could argue that's the same thing they're doing with the under-16s, but hey, they're under-16s. They're vulnerable. They don't have the same full rights as grown adults. That's just the way it is. So what are your thoughts on this? You can still get in touch on the text or in the chat today.
8168 with the keyword Rima, or of course leave a comment below. Find the stream at rima.co.nz, clicking on either the Facebook, I love Facebook, or YouTube links.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
That's where all the cool kids are hanging out, right, Josh?
Yes.
Yes. We have got about 3 minutes to cover about 4 stories. So one in particular, though, looking at the #1 story on the spin-off in the last week, obviously a lot being discussed on IKEA. But for those who read the spin-off, it was a deeply embarrassing time for us as a nation.
Yeah, no shred of dignity left, apparently, according to the spin-off.
Let me read out some of this, because I think they do love a rhetorical flourish on the spin-off. It's why I enjoy it every now and then. It's like having chocolate before bed. New Zealand's last shred of dignity was pronounced dead at 3:22 p.m. on December the 3rd, when a press release was sent to all media, letting them know the Prime Minister would be attending the opening of IKEA. The email was a capstone to a years-long symphony of simping our nation had performed to the Swedish megacorp.
And then, of course, not really that many people showed up.
Yeah. So was it really that embarrassing?
I mean, Christopher Luxon has certainly been pointing a lot of our attention to IKEA and away from other things.
I think it's just, look, we're being thought of. New Zealand often feels
we like to feel thought of.
And we get missed out a lot, don't we? As a new homeowner, Josh, you will probably already know the frustration of being like, oh, I'd love to get this for the new place. Oh, can't buy it in New Zealand.
Wow, yeah.
That is just the way things go. Maybe even your Christmas shopping, you've run up against the issues of trying to pick up something that you can only buy maybe via amazon.com.au.
And then, of course, you have to support a global conglomerate that is taking over the world, and you go, but where else do I get it?
How else can I live? What do you want from me? To not buy things? Pfft, you and your crazy ideas.
It's Christmas after all.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
This one, though, #8 on Google, and scandal for anybody who has gone out to get a driver's license in the last little while. NZTA came in at #8 in our trending news stories over the last week.
Nearly half of drivers fail resit test after claims VTNZ licensing officers took bribes.
That is kind of hilarious.
I did not bribe the driving instructor to get my license.
Nope.
You can tell because it took me 5 times to get my restricted and 3 times to get my learners. Got the full in the first go, though.
Did it take you 5 failures, though, to save up the money that you needed to pay him off on the last time around?
It does sound like I bribed them because I was just like paying with failures.
Yeah, in fact, if anything, like, not him again, please. Just somebody pass him. Where's blind old Harold? He can go out with him. It's kind of funny, though. I mean, does it just speak to, what, incentives and so on? I suppose it's a relatively stressful job. Is it? Is it? I'm saying these things, but the more I think about it, I'm just, not 100% sure.
Also got a comment through on the YouTube page. PMs have always attended openings of important institutions.
Yeah.
Lest we forget Robert Muldoon cutting the ribbon for Rima.
I would never forget Robert Muldoon. I have a picture of him up in my bedroom. That might not be true.
I hope not.
Also had a text come through from Jan as well, so great to see so much response today. We were talking about going to the US as well. She said, I've been 6 times for holidays on a visa that I had to apply for, not an ESTA, but I want to go back, but I'm concerned they may take issue with me at the border just because they can. And I think that's it. Is it just an arbitrary sniping? Depends if you get some border guard on a bad day and then suddenly you're back on a plane and sent home.
Or if they find anything that they believe is not in fitting with the...
Not in alignment with the current administration.
Sure, exactly. Yeah,
that's right.
They're like, away you go.
I see you posted this anti-Trump meme. I'm sorry, you're off to Gitmo. Well, look, that's actually all the time we have for today. You might have wondered why we only got to number 8. It's because this week was a sports apocalypse. It was so sporty. Number 1, in case you're wondering, was West Indies versus New Zealand, which I don't care about. Josh, do you care about?
A little, but not enough to really talk about it.
So let's stick around then on the live stream for a little while. If you've only just joined us, then of course you're welcome to do that. But otherwise, we will see you again for our last trending of the year.
Yeah, make sure to join us next week, same time, same place. But of course, if you want to be a part of the rest of the trending experience, find the live stream at remote.co.nz.
See you next week. Pretty sure our stream's been ended.
No, we're still up.
Are we still up? Oh, just gotta. I thought our stream had been ended, but my face is frozen on the screen there. So.
Oh yes, you are. No, but I can guarantee you are still streaming right now.
Oh, glorious!
To quite a few people. Yeah, numbers up on YouTube particularly. Hello to everybody who's joining on the stream. If you would like to go now to get back to your daily lives, you're more than welcome to.
What are you doing?
But
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Stick around? You've got the exclusive experience.
Honestly, first he trashes Facebook, then he tells people to go away. Are you ready for your Christmas holiday? Is that what this is?
I've checked out so early.
Self-sabotage. Thy name is Josh.
Look, the numbers haven't dropped.
Great to see, and great to get all your comments on all this stuff as well too, man. Talking about going to the US, talking about safety on public transport. And again, what are we going to do about these under-16s?
Yeah, just not enough time to talk about. We've got some really big topics of conversation and trending today. And
well, I should say, sorry to jump in, but you guys are what made them so big today too. It's your comments, it's your thoughts. That's exactly what this is all about. So thank you for providing the driving force for all this. What stood out to you with these ones today, mate? Like of the...
Oh, certainly the fact that it just seems to occur so often that there is this through line of this theme of the trade-off.
Yeah.
As you said, that quote, I think, really hit the nail on the head as we try to live right in society, especially as a Christian.
Yep.
Most likely, if you're engaging with Rima and the trending stream right now, you have a faith. And it is not always so straightforward. We would love it to be that the Bible outlines exactly how every situation we encounter, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
It has some instruction in that way, but in others, we have to use our best judgment.
Yeah, we've got to make our choices and accept the trade-offs. I'll give you an example from the home that I came up with, and then you can see how well this might map to these other situations, all right? Because we know that the majority of accidents happen in the home, right? It is the riskiest place you can spend your time, possibly because we spend so much time there, you've got a greater chance of something going wrong. So imagine then what it would take if you wanted to make your home 100% accident-proof.
I mean, it's impossible, right?
Well, let's just say that no harm around your house is acceptable. Like if I said, hey, Josh, you've got a couple of little kids running around. They're the future. They're the apple of your eye, your pride and joy. You know, how many accidents would you like your children to have in the course of a given year?
None.
Right. So let's then say, good, let's agree that they should have no accidents. Let's create a situation where they can have no accidents around the home.
Bubble wrap.
You can see where this is going, right?
Yeah.
But what do you have to bubble wrap? Do you bubble wrap them? But then, you know, there's all these other surfaces. So maybe you go around and you sand down all the corners of everything so that there's no sharp corners on anything. But then, oh, wait, no hard surfaces. Because what if they, you know, trip and hit a table and then, you know, so we get rid of all of those. But then you've still got things like you've got the drawers in the kitchen, so you've got to have latches for all of them. Or you've got your knives, so maybe we have those wrapped as well up in like bubble wrap or silicone or something. And then the hot water, you've got to have.
Okay, we get it.
Right. So we all accept the fact that you just can't do that.
Well, we also, I mean, and we're expanding this conversation out even more, we also know we have to introduce our kids to living in this world as it really exists. And so I say, I mean, neither of us, have children at this point in time.
Sure.
So it's easy to have these conversations hypothetically.
Yep.
But you ask theoretically, how many accidents do I want my children to have? None. And then I kind of go, actually, some.
That's great. That's great.
Because there's a trade-off there.
And so what do we do? And this is why I'm kind of expanding this to what we're doing around social media or what happens with, you know, the US, is that what you really try and say is, well, first of all, I don't want anything that will end their life.
Yes.
I don't want any accidents that could really, you know.
End it all.
So that's where I'm going to start. I'm gonna work back from there. Are there any things like, your electrical outlets, for example? You might kind of protect those in particular. We talked about knives and things. You want to make sure that they're up and away. Chemicals are locked behind drawers and that kind of stuff.
Safety latches, etc.
But you accept the fact that they might trip on something, bang their head on something, smack their knee on something, and that's just how it is. So in other words, impossible to get your house to 100% accident proof, but you can probably get like about 80% relatively easily. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, you put one of those gates on the stairs so they can't fall down there. Without too much added expense, you can probably take out 80% of your accident risk, and I would say probably about 99% of anything that's seriously life-threatening. And you do that, and most people would look at your house and be like, oh, yeah,
this is a safe house.
You've done what is reasonable to do. Now, even if you do that, you will hear the odd story of a child that somehow manages to be harmed at home and loses their life. And that cuts through the haze of everything, and we go, this is the worst thing ever. This should never happen again. Try to be the voice of reason in that moment to say, well, look, yes, it's tragic, but these things happen. They did everything that a reasonable family could hope to do. Because a lot of the concern around even things like helicopter parenting these days comes from our over-reliance, but that's not really the right word. We are trying so very, very hard to eliminate any form of harm that we've gone a little bit mental. So that's all just in a parenting sphere. I hope you can see where I'm going with this. When it comes to what are you going to do about bus stations, for example, obviously you don't want people there with knives. So, does that mean what? We need security guards at all of our bus stations now? Would that be enough?
I mean, we need more jobs in the sector.
Right, but would that do it, right? Would that be enough? Would that be the trade-off that we need? Is this something that's going to be here today, gone tomorrow? I'm thinking, for example, stuff like ram raids. The government have given themselves a lot of kudos for breaking the back of ram raids. Was that just a flash in the pan, or did they take some actually tangible, impactful steps to reduce ram raids? Big shrug. I don't know.
Yeah. I think to reduce it back to our daily lives, the takeaway is, because as we've seen this through line through all these stories, is if you put the pressure upon yourself so much so that you must be the holder of all things in perfection, you've missed the point of Christianity, and you will kill your mental health.
Yeah.
As we also have talked about today on the show, and it will only be detriment. That will be the trade-off.
Yeah. Yeah.
There will be a detrimental trade-off in other regards.
Yep.
We go back to prohibition.
Yep.
The goal was achieved, but there were other, potentially some would say, more detrimental trade-offs. So was it worth it in the end, even though strictly speaking, it did achieve its goal? And so through every action and through every day, we do involve. It's interesting also because we talk about God is involved in everything.
Sure.
Every element of our life. What does that actually mean? What does that? And this is part of what that means is actually, as the Bible does not give clear instructions for how to child-proof your home,
exactly,
or how to catch public transport, but knowing Scripture well and knowing God and having relationship with Him, it is an element, not the whole, but an element of making those decisions in life. There is actually an element of God is involved in every aspect of our lives.
The Bible says, live a life of wisdom. That's a pretty big catch-all. Be wise. It's like, I always like to joke about the fact that there's nowhere in the Bible that says thou shalt not drink bleach. So what does that mean? You should go out and drink bleach? Like, is that...
Nobody's saying the Bible is advocating, bleach drinking.
Well, it doesn't say you can't do it. So therefore, and of course, we'd also know that there are broader principles about you care of your own body and that sort of thing, right? So that's my kind of more comical way of addressing, I think, what you're saying, Josh, that the Bible doesn't try and tell you how to do absolutely everything. It gives you the foundations for what you need to know God, know who you are in relation to Him. But then there are certain things that are put into our hands, and recognizing that we live, as has been many times said, in a fallen world where harm happens. The hardest part, I think, would be to be on the wrong end of this and still to maintain that kind of mentality. I have a family member who was involved in a very unfortunate medical incident that is a 1 in tens of thousands. Tens of thousands. And they know this. But when you've been on the wrong end of it, that's cold comfort. And so, how should you respond? What is a reasonable expectation in those sorts of circumstances? Look, I'd love to know your thoughts on this one too. This whole thing about the social media ban and coming back to it all. Is it going to be a nightmare to enforce? Yes. Do you accept the trade-off though, that you are going to lower the number of under 16-year-olds who are on social media as a result? And that you will create a subculture of what percentage of 16-year-olds and under? 10%, 20%, 50%, who are just getting involved in other platforms that are less well regulated. Maybe, I don't know.
Look, we'll have to continue this conversation off air or off stream, I should say, because we do need to wrap on up. But you're still welcome to get in touch because, of course, the show will stay up for a while as well. But more to come as the final episode of Trending is next week. But I think also good to have these conversations with your community, with your friends and family, even with those outside of your own sphere, because having these conversations is also a part of how we live a Christian life and understand how we do this thing called living well.
Join us next week then, for the last Trending in 2025. How the time hath flown.
Oh my goodness.
Josh will even try and be there from the start of the show.
Christy, if Christy allows it, I shall be.
That's right. Hey, thanks again for being part of this. Thanks for your comments. It's been an absolute treat. We'll see you next time.